Hey everybody, Vic here with the Maker Shop, and today we're going to be talking about the Job Site Sawhorse. This could be the most economical and easiest way to create a new working surface in wherever you call a workshop. Let's get to it. Alright guys, the Job Site Sawhorse is very easy to assemble because it's based on an I-beam idea. Okay, so I have one here. I actually jumped the gun a little bit, and this is the one that we're supposed to be putting together in the video. But I'm going to walk you through how I put this together. But before we even get to that point, we have to talk about our lumber. I'm using just basic 2x4 lumber, bought it at the big orange box store. And I bought these in 16-foot lengths. Now, of course, my trailer wasn't available. So I had the guy at Home Depot cut these down for me, and because I kind of talked him up a little bit and kind of schmoozed with him, he didn't charge me for all the extra cuts that he was supposed to. So sometimes you can get lucky like that. Anyway, I cut all my lengths at 31.5 inches. I had him cut it at 31 7/8 so that I could trim off any factory edges or anything like that. And everything came out pretty good. He didn't do a bad job. So you want all of your pieces the same length, whatever that is. If you want taller ones, you could build it at 34 inches. If you want wider ones, again, just figure out whatever dimension it is, and every 2x4 gets cut to that same dimension. It makes things really simple. As you can see on this I-beam, I have 3 2x4s that I've screwed together, one of them in a vertical, 2 in a horizontal, and they're all the exact same length. And they're the exact same length as my legs. So it makes putting it together very easy. Now, the reason why I went with 31.5 is because with an 8-foot 2x4, you can get 3 cuts at just under 32 inches. Because 32 times 3 is 96, and that's the length of a standard 2x4. But you have to account for the thickness of the blade. That's also called the kerf, for those of you that didn't know. Anyway, with the kerf, which is typically about 1/8 of an inch, you're figuring that's 2/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch that he needs to cut off. So I had him cut at roughly 31 3/4 because then I could trim off the factory edge and make sure that I had all good clean edges to cut from. So all of my lumber has already been cut down because it's, well, as you can see behind me, it's pretty dark outside and I don't want to piss off my neighbors by running the miter saw right now. So I cut up everything earlier, but you could do this with a hand saw in a miter box. You could do it with a circular saw. I happen to have a miter saw, so I used my miter saw, but it's certainly not a requirement. You could do all of this with hand tools, although driving 3-inch construction screws might be a little tough with a screwdriver. So let's talk about our I-beam construction and how I put it together. Basically, I want this vertical piece to be centered in the 2 horizontal pieces. So what I did is I used my combination square and I set it, let me make sure I got this in the camera right. I set it, here, let's come this way, there we go. I set it to 1 inch, right? Tighten that down because I know that if I measure 1 inch from this side and 1 inch from this side, that's 2 inches. This is 3.5 inches. So that gives me 1.5 inches in between. So if you see the lines on there, you can see that I put a line here, a line here, a line here, and a line here. It just tells me a good place to put this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as close to the center as you can get it is going to give you the best rigidity in this I-beam. So I just do it for me. It's very simple to do. It's 2 ticks on that side, flip the board around, 2 ticks on that side, and then do it again for this board, and then you can line it up. So I'm going to set this one out of the way, even though this is one we're going to work with. And basically, all you need to do, take your center, your vertical piece, and you're going to line up your horizontal piece. And of course, you'd have the tick marks here on the edge of the board. You have the tick marks here on the edge of the board to make sure that you're centered. I always go about 1.5 inches in from the edge to put my first screw. The reason I do that is if you get too close, you could split this end grain. But typically with construction screws, you don't need to pre-drill. These are job site workhorses. These aren't things that you're gonna pass down through the centuries here. These are gonna last you a couple years, and then you're gonna build something better and you're gonna move on. So, but I want them to last. So I come in 1.5 to 2 inches from the edge so that I know that I'm not gonna split this board. Then once I have this one screwed in, I flip it around and I make sure that this one is centered, and I do the same thing. 1.5 to 2 inches, put another 3-inch construction screw. And then I come toward the middle, and I typically go just off center. And I'll explain why in just a second. But I'm left-handed, so I always go just to the left of center, put a screw in the middle, it's solid. Flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. So now, if I grab this I-beam again, you can see I've got my 2 screws here, and then this one is slightly off-centered. And the reason why I do it slightly off-centered is because 2 3-inch screws, I could, if I was like perfect dead on, I could actually hit those screws and then it might screw something up. This whole thing could explode for all I know. So if I do it off-centered one direction always, so it's always to the left, so when I'm putting this one together, it's always to the left, and I'm offsetting those screws. It's not a big deal, but I'm just a little like that. And I countersink these. I don't actually do a countersink. I just drive them maybe 1/4 of the way through this board, so that if I'm running a circular saw or something along here, I don't hit the tops of those screw heads with my saw blade and screw up my blade. I'm not worried about the screw itself. I'm worried about messing up my blade. So I always drive these screws a little bit deep, and this is not going anywhere. This is so solid, it is ridiculous. Now let's get to putting the legs on. All right guys, so now it's time to get the legs prepped. And I like to kind of pre-prep my legs so that I can mount it to the I-beam a lot easier. Basically, we're gonna come down about 1.5 inches, and we wanna come in maybe 3/4 of an inch. This does not have to be specific. And the reason why I say these distances is because I know where it's gonna line up. Now I'm just gonna set these screws and not kill myself. That's why I use a square drive. Even if it nicks me, it's not gonna kill me. Okay, so I've got those set. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these done, and then we'll talk about assembling it onto the I-beam. All right guys, so we got them all assembled. Now let's get them attached to the I-beam. Let me move a couple of these out of the way. Now, again, you don't need to have a combination square. You could use a screwdriver, you could eyeball it. Me, I'm kind of a little retentive about this. 2.5 inches. Okay, that's how far I want to make a mark. So I'm going to set this here, grab my pencil, make a mark. I don't need to do one on the bottom side, but I do need to do one on this far side. And then I'll do it again, flip it over. Now, I will say this is not a requirement, okay? This is just me. And the reason why I like to do this is because I'm gonna inset the legs by that mark, okay? That way I know that they're evenly spaced on both sides and on both ends. And the reason why I like this overhang is because if I was using a clamp for something, let's say I was clamping onto the top, I can fully seat this clamp underneath here and it's not gonna hit the leg. I mean, I have to push that clamp all the way for it to even come close to hitting where the leg would be. So I can get a good clamp on there, you know, clamp down my material, and the leg is still going to be out of the way. So that's why I like leaving that overhang there, and it's just a good practice. But it's your sawhorse. You can make it the way you want. So the reason why I preset these screws at that distance is because I know that they're going to bite right into this I-beam, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to hold this in place, and I'm going to set these 2 screws. You don't need to countersink these as much as you do on the top. I got a little overzealous with that one. And now, this part of the I-beam is pushing this board up, okay? That's gonna give us our leg angle. So, I can drive these 2 screws so that I end up in this board down here, and I don't have to drill them at an angle or anything like that. I can just drive them straight in. And there you go. There's one leg. It's 2.5 inches off the edge. Plenty of room to clamp. I'm going to go ahead and throw on the other legs, and then we'll be back. Alright guys, so our sawhorse is all assembled, and you can see it did not take long to build. Once you get the hang of these things, 15-20 minutes, you got it knocked out. Now, if you wanted to add some more stability, you could take a piece of 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch plywood and make a little shear panel. It doesn't need to go the entire length of the leg, but you could build it out from here to here, just screw it in, and it would keep this from shearing. These are incredibly strong. I have no problem putting several 100 pounds on these sawhorses, but if you wanted that little extra security, you could absolutely do that. Or if you really wanted to beef up the legs, if you're going to be putting a lot of weight on these things, you might want to take a piece. Let me grab a piece of lumber really quick. Now obviously it wouldn't need to be an actual 2x4, but you could nail it or screw it between these 2 legs so that the legs have no way of flexing out. These legs are pretty sturdy. You could beef them up by putting something, you rotate this, putting something here if you wanted to, but once you start doing that, you run into the risk, especially anything over here, you run into the risk of not being able to stack it. Now, one great idea that you could do is take like a 1x4 or a 1x3. 2x4 is too heavy. Yeah, these already are pretty stout. You don't want to be adding a ton more weight to them to carry them around. But if you did want these legs to lock together, then you could do some sort of, like, put a screw here, and this side is like rotates on this screw, and you could like latch it into place. That is absolutely something you could do to beef it up. So there's lots of variations you can do to this job site work saw to make it work for you. If you're going to be putting several 100 pounds on top of these, you might want to brace across these legs somehow, either with plywood or a board, a 1x4, something like that, just to make sure that the legs don't bust out. But with the 3-inch construction screws and the I-beam construction up here on the head, this is going to be plenty sturdy for most everything that you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up and get you guys out of here. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for the old sawhorse. They're easy to assemble, economical to build, no maths required. The next time you need an additional work surface, put a couple of these together, throw on a few planks or a piece of plywood, and get yourself to work. hey, if you're new to my channel, smash that subscribe button. Click the bell notification icon to get notified for future videos. I have some great projects coming up in the next couple of weeks that you may just want to build yourself. So, if you have any questions, comments, kicks, or complaints, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. I work really hard to make sure that I answer everybody. And until next time, I'm Vic with the Maker Shop saying this has been the greatest day in my life. Now go build some. See ya. So there you have it, guys, the Job Site Sawhorse. It is very easy to construct, great to modify in so many different ways, and hopefully you find this suitable for creating new work surfaces wherever you're making. That was stupid. Oh my God. So the next time you need an additional work surface, don't think that you need to go buy a table or buy sawhorses. You can now make your own, and you'll feel better for doing it. So there you guys go, the Job Site Sawhorse. Economical, easy to make, no maths required, and it's very versatile. So the next time you need an additional work surface, don't go out and buy sawhorses or buy a table or something like that. When you need an additional work surface, you can build your own now. If you guys have any questions, comments, kicks, or complaints, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. And hey, if you're new to the channel, and you better be because it's a brand new channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, click the bell notification icon. I have a lot of great videos coming out very soon, and they're not going to be like boring sawhorses. I've got some great project stuff coming up in just the next couple of weeks, and now someone's mowing.